Hi, welcome back. In today's tutorial, we're going to learn how to create and customize a bar chart that looks like this. So, in our previous lesson, we have covered how to add a chart. So to add a chart, can go to this add a chart button up here and select bar chart. So here we're going to select this horizontal bar chart and click on it to insert. However, I have some quick tips for you to create a chart much more faster and lesser clicks. So to do that, I'll just use the chart below here. So I can select this, just click on the chart and use the shortcut key Command-C or Control-C if you're using Windows. And use the same key Command-V to paste the chart. So now we have two similar charts over here. And what we can do is to go to the right hand side header, expand the header, and then here I can quickly switch it to bar chart. Just hit the bar chart icon and it will show the bar chart for me. This would save us some time because we already know that the dimension and the metric for the bar chart and the pie chart is going to be the same. So we don't have to start from the very first step. We can just copy and paste and we can customize the chart right away. So now I'm just going to remove this record count bar chart. Now we already have a bar chart. To improve this further, I will want to add an x-axis, which is the sales revenue. And then I will want to add a data label at every bars. So to do that, click on the bar chart and we're going to go to Style tab to customize the look of the chart. So here, we can scroll to the bottom and look for x-axis. So now we can see this bottom x-axis section. Click on the Show Axis title. Here we got the price. Don't worry about the name of the x-axis. Next, remember we want to have a data labels. So now let's scroll up to the bar chart section and we're going to click this Show Data Labels. And right away you will see these numbers appearing at the very end of the chart. If you're wondering what is this compact numbers means, it's actually helping us to shorten the numbers. So for example, now I can maybe temporarily change the SKU to country. So you can see if I click the compact numbers now, you can see this 1.4K previously was 1384, like the number is longer. Now we can shorten it to 1.4K only. So right now, I'm just going to remain it as the usual one. And let's change back to the SKU. Before we move on to the next step, make sure you remember to rename the x-axis title. So right now, we are in the Data tab. Scroll to the bottom and look for the Metrics section. Click on this Edit icon. And let's rename it. So just type in the name of the column. And you can add a $sign at the end of the title so that people knows that what currency we're referring to in this report. And once we're done, just click on the canvas to close the window. The next step I'm going to do is to remove this legend up here. This is because we already have the labels for the x-axis that tells us that these bars refers to the sales revenue. So this legend is kind of redundant here. So to remove that, just click on the chart again. And then we're going to go to the same tab, which is Style. And we are going to look for legend. So scroll down to the bottom. And here you can see 4 icons here. that shows you the position of the legend, and we're going to select none. So now we are able to remove the legend. For the color of the chart, it's okay to remain it as blue now because we're going to customize it in the very end of this course. So right now, I'm just going to resize it and relocate to the position that I want. So far, we have learned how to create and customize a pie chart and a bar chart. However, sometimes we just want to have a quick glance into some of the business KPIs for a quick health check and also for benchmarking. So here's where we can utilize a chart called Scorecard to display all of our important KPIs in a dashboard. Again, this is some of the example scorecards that we're going to create later. We will have the sales revenue, average item price, total items sold, and also the total buyers. During the process of creating the scorecards, you will learn something bit by bit, so be sure to stay till the end. And we're going to have a small quiz for the scorecard, so you can check your knowledge at the end of this section. So let's start now. To insert a scorecard, similarly, just go to Add a Chart and find the scorecard section. Just click on the first one and hit on the canvas to add the chart. So right now, Data Studio has selected a random column, which is the record count. So in this case, to have a revenue scorecard, we are going to drag and drop the price into the metric column. And you will see that now Data Studio has selected an aggregated method, which is the sum for this metric. So that's how we can get a scorecard. Pretty simple, right? But before we proceed, let's rename this scorecard so that other people know what is this referring to. So we're going to just call it sales revenue, and then in the bracket, just key in dollar or any other symbol for your currency. Next, we're going to create a scorecard for average item price. So in that case, for the speed, we are going to use some shortcuts that I teach you earlier to create another scorecard. So right now I have two sales revenue. For average item price, we are going to use back the same column, which is price. But instead of using a sum, we are going to calculate the average. So in this case, just click on this edit button. And then under the aggregation, I'm going to choose average. So now you can see that the scorecard shows the average instead of the sum of the entire column. Now the last step is just to rename the column to average item price. And then the third scorecard we're going to cover here is the total items sold. So unlike the previous scorecards that we created, which we have a numeric fields, like price, it's a numeric field. Right now, for the total items sold, we don't have that. So what we have is the transaction ID that represents a unique transaction. So based on our understanding on the business or the dataset, we know that for each transaction, it represents one item sold. So in that case, say if we calculate how much transaction ID are there in this dataset, we can directly know that how many items has been sold during that period. So with that in mind, I'm going to go find the transaction ID and drag and drop it. Before we do that, just copy and paste a new one. And then I'm going to drag and drop the transaction ID into this metric. So right now you can see the CTD in front of the metric. This is actually stands for count distinct. So if I click on this edit button, I can see that the aggregation method is selected as count distinct. So this is what we want. We don't want to select count because in some cases where there is a duplicate in your dataset, you want to avoid counting the same transaction twice. So we'll always select count distinct. And then in the name, we're going to rename it to total item sold. Now we have 3 scorecards created. And I want to mention that all these can be created using the drag and drop method, which is what we have learned just now. But we have another method which is using calculated fields to create the metric and then drag and drop the metric into the placeholder here. However, in this episode, I want to keep it simple for you, so we will come to that later in this course. And for now, the last metric, which is the total customers, I want you to take this chance to practice your understanding. So now I want you to pause this video and try to create a scorecard that represents the total customers. And a quick hint here is that you can refer to the dataset, data dictionary, if you are in doubt on the data understanding part. Welcome back. Now I assume that you have done the quiz and I will just review the answers. To do that, we can just copy and paste the same scorecard. And I'm going to look for the buyer ID, which is this buyer column, and drag it to the metric. So here you go. Did you manage to get the answer? If you do, leave a comment below to let us know. However, if you can't follow, do leave us in the comments below what's your mistakes and let's learn together. Last but not least, we are going to learn how to insert a table chart that looks like this. So to add a chart, just go to add a chart button and then we're going to select the very first table. Hit on the canvas to add the chart. So now we have a table here. The next step is to select the fields that we need in this table. So we're going to need the coupon code. And since it's a dimension, we are going to drag and drop it under the dimension here. So what I will do is I will just put it on top of the current fields so it will replace it. And then for the metric, we are going to need a price, which is already there. So I'll just leave it. And then I'm going to need a discount amount. So drag and drop this. And we are going to need a total buyer. So right now, you can see that some of the texts are being cut off. For example, the opening sale ... And then we also can see some header being cut off. So in this case, I'm going to just resize the table. And it doesn't solve the issue entirely. So to do that, I will just manually move the vertical border to the right a little bit. However, my common practice is to right-click and choose Resize Column and distribute evenly. So then the column width will be distributed evenly across every columns. I prefer this more because when I need to resize the table, the size of the column stays even. So I don't have to do the manual movement or adjustment for the column width anymore. Besides, another common practice of preventing a text being cut off in the table is to change the formatting. So right now, I'll just select this table and go to Style tab at the right. And I'm going to change the formatting for the table header to become wrap text. So then now when I move the table into smaller, the table header will be adjusted and it will be moved to the next row. Same for the table body. I'm going to change it to wrap text. So now you can see that opening sale has shown fully. This is before we make the changes, and this is after we wrap the text. So now you don't have to worry about text being cut off when you need to resize the table. Next, in GDS, the order of the column in a table follow the sequence in the dimension and metrics. So to check that out, I will just go to Data tab And you can see that the table follows the sequence of dimension first, which is coupon code, and then move down to price, discount amount, and also the buyer. So if you want to reorder the columns, you can just move it up and drop it over there. So this is how you can rearrange the column. For now, I'm good with this sequence, so I'll just remain it as it is. Next, I'm going to talk about the sorting. If you notice in this table, you can see this small triangle pointing down. That means this table is being sorted by the column price, and it's sorted in the descending order. So if we want to change the column, we can always go to the data tab, and then you scroll down to the sort section, and here you can see the column. You can click on it to change to discount amount if you want, but for now, let's choose the price first, and you can sort it by ascending or descending. So it's really up to you and the business requirements. Next, we can see that there's a secondary sort function over here that you can configure. So similarly, you can just add the next column to sort if you want. But for now, we'll just leave it as blank. And before we move on further, let's rename the column first. For the price, I'm going to rename it to sales revenue.
And for discount amount, let's name it as discount amount and put dollar sign. And for buyer, just put total buyer.
I think we are all good here. Moving on, you can further customize this table by changing the format of the values inside the table. Say for example, we can see that the discount amount, there are some values that has decimals and some does not have. So to make it standardized and easier for us to read, we can make the entire field to appear as 1 decimal points. So to do that, I'll just go to Style again and scroll down until you find the metric section. And here is where we can customize each column in our tables. In this section, we can see that the column name is not stated over here. However, we do have a numbering that allows us to identify which corresponding fields that we are referring to. Say for example, column number 1 in the matrix will correspond to sales revenue. Say for example, if I change the decimal points for this column, you can see that it will appear in the first metric. So now I'll just set it to auto again. And what we want to change is the discount amount. So now let's move on to the number 2 column. And I will change the decimal precisions to 1. So now it's being standardized to 1 decimal points. Other than the decimal points, we can also align the text. Say for example, I will want to align all the metrics to left hand side. I can just do this. Or I can make it to center if I want, or right. So now let's move it to left hand side first. There's also a simple setting over here, which is compact numbers. So this basically helps you to convert this full number into a shortened form of number. Say for example, if I click compact number, you can see that the sales revenue has been rounded up to 1.7K instead of showing at the full number 1674. This is very useful if you just want the higher level numbers instead of the very exact accurate numbers. Now we have almost done with our table here, but you will notice that there is a difference between this that we just created and the above table. So basically in Data Studio, we can convert a table from this format to a table with bar charts, like a very mini bar charts within the table. So to do that, it's super easy. Just go to the matrix section again And for the number, we are going to change it to Heatmap first, just to show you the example. So if I change it to Heatmap, say now if we want to change it to bar charts, we can change it to bar/pub, and we can select show number if you want the numbers to appear in front of the bar. Same for other columns, we just do the same thing. And you will probably wonder what is this yellow lines, right? This is actually the target lines, which you can just add easily here. Just click on the show target. And here you can define what is your target value. Say if it's 10, then the line will appear at this. Say, for example, if your marketing campaign, the target is to have at least 10 buyers, then from here you can easily see that which campaign fall below the target and which is exceeding the target. So that's just one sample usage of the target line. You can use it for other use case if you like. In overall, I think adding a bar chart or heat map in a table chart allows our audience to have better visual cues, especially when they are comparing different KPIs within the same table. That's all for today. If you like today's chart tutorial, I'm sure you will like our next one, which will cover the more advanced charts like time series chart and map charts. So be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll get notified next time when the video is up. See you next time. Bye bye.